Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Taravat. In this video, we're going to dive into the fundamentals of backend concepts and build a REST API project using Golang. If you're new to backend development or Golang, you're in the right place to learn some valuable skills. Go is a fantastic language to pick up, even if it's your very first programming language. It introduces you to important lower-level concepts like pointers in a way that is still friendly for beginners. You don't need a computer science degree to learn it. We'll start our Go journey by building a simple to-do application. This helps us understand how to work with HTTP and how to connect to a database. Let's begin the basics of what backend is. Think of every website has two main sides, the front end and the back end. The front end is everything you see and interact with directly on the website, the buttons, text, and the images. The back end, on the other hand, is the hidden engine of the website. It lives on a server and handles all the behind-the-scenes work like managing data, running the website's logic, and making sure everything works correctly. You don't see it, but it's absolutely essential for the front end to work. These two sides, the front end and the back end, communicate with each other through APIs, or application programming interfaces. Think of an API as a set of rules that allows different software components to talk to each other. A common type of API is a RESTful API. RESTful APIs use standard web methods called HTTP methods to manage data. These methods are like verbs that tell the server what action the front end wants to perform. For example, get is used to retrieve data from the server. Post is used to send new data to the server. Put is used to update an existing piece of data on the server. Delete is used to remove data from the server. Patch is used to update only a part of an existing piece of data on the server, rather than replacing the whole thing. Let's look at a simple workflow to understand how all this comes together before we dive into the code. Imagine we have a server running on our own computer, which we often call localhost. When the front end of our to-do app loads into your browser, the very first thing it might do is send a GET request to the server. This is like the front end asking the server, "Hey, can you give me all the to-do tasks to show?" The server then looks at this request and routes it to the correct handler. In our case, let's say a function called getTasks. This function then connects to a database to fetch all the to-do tasks and sends it back to the front end. The front end then displays your to-do list on the screen. Similarly, when you want to add a new task, the front end will likely to send a post request to a specific endpoint on the server, including the details of a new task. The server will then receive this request, process it, and might send back a confirmation to front end that the task has been added. Now let's say you want to delete a task. When you click a delete button, the front end will send a delete request to the server. To tell the server which task to delete, it often will include a unique ID of task in the request, perhaps at the end of the request address, like task/ID. The server then uses the ID to find and delete the correct task from database. Alright everyone, now let's take a quick peek at the code that makes our to-do apps backend. Don't worry if it looks a little new. We'll keep it high level for now. If you want to dig deeper later, feel free to ask in the comments, and you'll find all the full codes in the GitHub, link in the description. So here's how our project is organized. We have a main folder and inside it a server folder. This server folder holds all the code for our backend. Inside the server folder, you'll see a few important parts. First, main.go. Think of it as the starting point of our backend application. It's where everything kicks off. Then we have a folder called models. This is where we define the structure of our data. In our case, we have a file called models.go which describes what a to-do item looks like. It has an ID, a status, and the actual task itself. Next up is the middleware folder. For now, you can think of it as the place where we'll put the logic for what our app does, like getting all the tasks, adding the new one, making one as complete, and so on. The middleware.go file will contain these actions. Finally, we have a router folder with a router.go file. This file is like a traffic controller for our app. It tells the server which piece of code should handle different web addresses or endpoints, and what kind of requests like get, post, put, delete it should respond to. Let's quickly look at main.go. This code is pretty straightforward. It imports some necessary tools, and then in the main function it sets up our traffic controller using the routes.router function from our router folder. Finally, it starts our server and tells it to listen for requests on port 9000. You'll see the message starting the server on port 9000 in our terminal when it runs. Now let's look at router.go file. Here's where we define our API endpoints. Remember how we talked about get, post, put, and delete? This code connects these methods to a specific action in our middleware folder. For example, this line says when someone makes a GET request to the /API/task address, our getTasks function in the middleware will handle it. That's how we get all the to-do items. So that's a very quick overview of our basic code structure. We have the main entry point, the traffic controller for our API, and the definition of our to-do item. In the next step, we will dive into the middleware to see how these actions are actually implemented. If you have any questions so far, please leave a comment below. And don't forget, the full code is available on GitHub if you want to explore it in more detail. Let's keep going.